Something great. Now, ECIO has come a long way. Might say that it started way back in 2000, correct? Now, I've joined ECIO for the last almost 9 years, 2011. Okay, so joining ECIO, one of the objectives was that what can we make a difference from day one? So we start to look at it and say, hey, we have done 30P in the past, how could we bring a product to the next level? And in the early days, we start to say, okay, we need something more powerful. Why? Because that's the IT world. IT world has progressed constantly, evolving constantly. And two things that drive it the most, that impact our life the most is one, is open. Open standard, open architecture. The openness does not mean that it's open to a certain way, it's open completely. A standard is a standard, it's not a subset. It's not your choice or preference, okay? Second is that it's constantly evolving to give you more resource. That means more processing power, more memory. Why? Because then you can do more, you can imagine, you can dream what can be done. So how many people, let's say way back in almost 20 years ago, would think that today we do our emails on the handphone. We do 80% of our office work on the handphone. Anyone could imagine that 20 years ago? Anyone remember that when handphone came about, how big was it? Correct. It was like in Asia, we call it a big water bottle. Remember, it carried 3 packs of battery because it only lasts you maybe 4 hours. To last a day, you need 3 packs of battery. Yep. And I still remember way back in the maybe 90s, when you travel, what is it? Office work stays in the office. It don't travel with you. True? And the only way to contact the person that's traveling is hopefully he's in that hotel that you have to send a fax over. And in the mid-80s, I still remember when I was in India, to make a phone call back to office, morning before breakfast, I had to make an appointment for a night call. Then the next day, I had to wait in my room that evening for maybe half an hour for the phone to ring, say, sir, you are connected. Right. And your wife can call you wherever you are. That was something that I regret not having. But things happen. Technology evolved from a desktop, like way back in 86, XP, PC, IBM PC became the first office computer. It became, instead of hobbies, not personal, but actually do some work. Then down the road, it became what we call a luggable computer because people want to move computer from point A to point B, bring it home to do work. They regretted that because when you go home, you still have to do work. But the event of what we call a luggable, that means you need 2 hands to carry with you, okay, to bring your computer back home. But that's the start of mobility. Then you get into laptops. In the late 90s and early 2000s, we start to have laptops. Then, somewhere along about 8 years, 9 years, almost 10 years ago, we start using handphone. Correct? That's the early iPhone 1. Okay? And things evolve naturally to us. We start to think about what can we do, how can we have everything in our hand. The only sad part of our industry is that things don't change that way. Okay? Today, we still think about most of the things. It's like we still have this philosophy of if it worked 20 years ago, let's keep doing the same thing. Okay? And I don't come from this industry, in real sense. Now, people say, okay, you design all these products, come up all these ideas, you must be in this industry for 20, 30 years. No. The only thing I know about, someone asked me, how much I know about control industry. I say, the only thing I know about chiller is that you put a drop of water in your hand, you blow it, you feel cold. That's the closest I get. Okay? Or I remember in my early days, school days, where science teacher taught us that when you compress gas and you release the gas, it gets cold. Okay, so that was the closest thing I get to what we do in our industry. But I spent in the IT world since 1978. I started programming computers, design peripherals, design systems, all these things since then till today. So to me it was that when I came to this industry, it was very unnatural that over a period of 10, 20 years, things don't change. Things still do the same way. So when I joined ECIO, the first thing we say, how can we change that? How can we improve? How can we do more with less? We hear everyone talk about doing more with less, but can we do that? So over the years, we start developing different products, but we try to make it different. And we always have a say, we do not design Me Too product. Anyone know what the term Me Too stands for? Anyone heard of this phrase, Me Too? Yes. It's like the sales guy will go to a customer and customer says, your competitor has this feature. The sales guy will say, Me Too. Correct. Everything is the same as the competitor. Right. So we don't do that. We don't design products that is already out in the market. We want to make a different, unique features in the product that identify as an ECIO product. So from the very first product that we designed, from the early days 30P, it was one of the earliest Ethernet-based controller, IP controller, way back in 2003 or 4, right, Mike? Yep. So we are one of the earliest. In fact, we are one of the earliest controller that used a 32-bit processor in the market, when the market is still using 8-bit and 16-bit. We were the first commercially available Sedona controller in the market. When everyone is still prototyping, demonstrating, we were there. In fact, when Trillium launched Sedona to the market as open source, within 6 months, we have a 30 ported Sedona into our 30P controller. And it's commercially available at that point in time. So in 2011, we start to say, can we design something different, a new controller that will meet expectation for the future? Now, what's the future? Now, when I first joined ECIO, a friend of mine who know me for many years and asked me, what do I do? I say, my job is to come up new products that will design for the next 5 years. You look at me and laugh. You say, I know you that long, you're not that smart, how do you know the future? I said, it's the easiest job that I ever had. He said, why? Nobody knows what the future demand is, correct? So I said, no, it's very easy. All I need to look at IT industry, what technology do they have 5 years ago and still around today? And I'm already 10 years ahead of the industry. Am I correct? Correct. So when we first designed our first controller, the FG controller, we said it's going to be different from typical controller. You need to have all these IT ready features. What do I mean by that? We want to say a controller, I might mention this early morning that one of the things that we did was to collapse the architecture from a 3-tier to 2-tier, correct? So we say, how do we collapse that? Make the controller more powerful, do more things, collapse the gateway and the field device into 1 tier, okay? So we say, okay, you need to have all these features, you have everything in there, you have an SQL database for storage, it has to have a web server for graphics, He had to be able to talk multi-protocols, all built in with the I/O mix, but still affordable. Okay, so can we do that? And we believe we could. Why? Because of one rule, Moore's law. Anyone know what is Moore's law? Okay, why is that important? Those who do not know, basically it's saying that every 18 months, you double processing power at the same price, or the same processing power with half the cost, one way or the other. Okay, and it happened to us today. You look, anyone just recently buy a new TV? You pay the same price or less, we double the feature. True? And every year, you start looking at it and say, hey, in fact, you start regretting after you buy that TV. Because 6 months later, you found the next one even better at the same price or less. And that's electronics. And our industry, for some reason, you either get the same feature for double the price, or less, still double the price. Agree? Why? Because our industry invented some electronics feature that the IT world never uses. And that is true. Because those are what the IT world call obsolete product. In the electronic world, component price keep dropping at the start. When someone invented something new, a new processor, a new memory, a new chip, the price start at a certain price point, and over the next 2 years, it keeps dropping. Why? Because production increases, the more you produce, the cheaper it gets. More people uses it, it's cheaper. Now, 3 years later, what happened? The next chip come along that replaced the first chip. That chip stayed at the same price, start at the same price. Your old chip price start to increase because volume start to reduce. The new chip start to increase its volume, its price start to go down. So what actually happened is that the old chip that does less actually costs more. While the new chip that does more is getting cheaper and cheaper. So how do we ride that wave? Two things. One, we must be proactive looking at what is in the market, what's the trend, where's the sweet point of the product. Second, we cannot spend 4 years designing a product. Why? Because whatever chip we choose, 4 years later when we launch, what happens? The price keep going up. So we have to spend 1 year designing a product and let the price go down. And we ride that way. But second, we have to constantly evolve, keep upgrading, keep improving, give you more. Right? So by doing that, we keep riding that downward price trend by not making you pay more for less. Of course, we try to make you pay more for more. True? Or the other way is that we try to make it worth your while to do it. So when we first designed, 8 years ago, designed the FG, we say in the market, people are just using maybe 50 megahertz processor, 40 megahertz processor. We say, well, let's start at 200 megahertz processor. Instead of 3 kilobytes of memory, we give you 16 megabytes of memory. Okay? And we start showing people the control of the first FG32. Not the Plus, but the FG. Some people love it because they find that it's fast, it's quick, it can do a lot of things. We even got comment from people who say, it's too powerful for this industry. We don't need that. Now, it's the same statement. Bill Gates ever made a statement way back in the 80s, saying that nobody's going to write a program more than 16 megabyte of memory, 16 kilobyte of memory, or 64K of memory. Today it's how many gig of memory we need. Why? Because when you let people do more, what happened? People try to take advantage of it. So when the FG started, people say, hey, I can take this controller and replace an existing product that uses 2 controllers. Take 2 controllers, put into one, and do in one controller instead of programming 2 separate things. Now, we never put a cap on what you cannot do or what you can do. So people will start saying, hey, since I can do 2, can I do 3? Can I do this? Can I do that? So we start to add more and more features. But we know one day, within 3 years, people will overload the device. Is that normal? What do you think? Most of us overload our laptop, too much file, within 3 years we say it's too slow. True? Because we try to do more. So that's why within 2.5 years, our customers start to complain, say it's too slow. So by then, we start coming out with the FG Plus, we double the memory, we double the processor, double everything. And of course, again, everybody look at it and say, fantastic, great, we got faster, it looks snappy now. But human nature is that when you give them more, they want even more. So what happened next? Same thing repeated again, 3 years. Actually get even shorter. Instead of 2.5 years, we get complaint. In 2 years, we start getting complaint. Why? Because you give them a web page, they started off putting 10 points on the web page. It looks great. Okay? How about more? They start putting 20 points. Okay, it's still survivable. They start putting 50 points. Okay, that's very slow. And the question is, can it be faster? So, one of the biggest mistakes we did in the FG Plus, that was about 5 years ago, was that we will only double the capability. So, in fact, 2.5 years ago, we said it's time to build the next controller. Okay? And what's the next controller? The FS. And we learned that mistake. We don't double. We increase by timefold. Why? Because I can't wait. I don't want to, within 2 years, have to rush to produce another product. So, for the same application that's running on the FG Plus, it took about 20 seconds to load a web page. The same application, the same graphics, everything was put on the FS, and it takes 2 seconds to load. That is a timefold performance improvement. Great. So, last year we start debating. Okay, now we have a problem now. What's the problem? Nobody is going to buy the next faster than the FS controller for the next 5-8 years. So how can we make you guys buy the next faster controller? The only way to get you guys run and use the fastest or buy the next best things is like what Microsoft did for the PC industry. Anyone know what Microsoft did for the PC industry? To make you buy the next fastest Intel processor, the fastest laptop. Very close. It basically create application that you want that will consume all the resources. So that you feel that, hey, I want that. I want it to be faster. Correct? So what are we actually looking at FS today? We are looking at more powerful graphics. We are looking at more powerful database. Why? Because those areas will drive few key areas. Like we have a partner in Green Bay who is now looking at how to put machine learning inside the controller. because we can store years of data. He can take those data and use machine learning to crunch and give better optimization. Okay, is that important? It's the next direction, the drive for the future. But without the ability to have that much processing power, without the ability to organize and store so much data, we will never reach there. Okay, so what we are creating is not technology that is going to be for the future, but we are creating enablers to enable you to create the future. Does that make sense? Because you guys are the expert. You guys know your market domain knowledge. We are not. But we can create those enablers to make your life easy. So tomorrow, any one of you want to stay on, I'm going to show you some of the stuff, technology that we have created that allow you to drive in those directions. Okay? Now, some of the classes that I went through, I lost half the class on the first day, and I lost the rest on the second day. So if you felt lost tomorrow, it's normal. If you don't feel lost and you understand everything, you're exception. Okay, so tomorrow, come for the class at your own risk. Now, the other part that drives us is standards. What do I mean by standards? Any one of you can name a standard in our industry. What do you deem as standard?
ISO standards?
Magnet in our industry, correct? Magnet is a standard in our industry. Okay, is lawn a standard in our industry?
Yes.
Is it a standard in our industry? It is. Second question, what is considered open? Is Magnet open? No? Partially. Is EB open? Partially. Lawn open?
Not at all.
Not at all. So, why in our industry has a conflict between standards and openness? Look at the IT world. Is Wi-Fi a standard and is it open?
Standard, yes.
Is it open? Is it an open standard? Okay. What makes Wi-Fi an open standard? Because think of it this way. Do you know what is the brand of the Wi-Fi access point in this building?
No.
Anyone know?
No.
No. Do you care?
No.
Do you need to have the same brand of device to be able to connect to that Wi-Fi access point?
No.
No. And why you can do that? No, because it's a standard and it's open. But the fact that openness is not the end of story, but a standard that means no exception. Make sense? So our industry say that Magnet is a standard. Can we 100% guarantee that two Magnet devices that comply to the standard, that go through Magnet lab, testing lab, get the approval BTL, and expect them to talk to each other 100% compatible? No. So what is that testing for? Since we cannot guarantee that. Why? Because first, the standard was written with exception inbuilt in the standard. That means you can optionally decide to comply or not to comply with parts of the standard. And that is within the standard. It's like you're saying that I have a Wi-Fi standard that can optionally comply or not comply with that, so that I may not support this encryption standard, or I only support my own proprietary standard. Allow that. When that happens, what happened to a standard? No more standard. True. In our industry, actually, we took a step back from standard. What do I mean by a step back from the standard? Sometimes this question tends to be insulting some people. How many of you still remember pneumatic? Pneumatic. Compressor. And sorry, because when you raise your hand, everyone knows how old you are. I know you are older than me because I didn't play with that during my generation. Yeah. Now, when you say an inch pipe, those days you are talking of pipe size, correct? So an inch pipe, is there a variation to that inch pipe? No. So you don't care who you buy that pipe from. If it's an inch diameter, it's an inch, correct? There's no variation of that. So we went for this high-tech electronic control, DVC control, with all these standards and all these things. Now we are no more compatible. Isn't that a step back from the old days? Strange, right? And we accepted that. So, ECRO, we adopt standard from the IT world. Why? Because IT world standard do not allow you to have deviation, not variation. Because they want to make sure that irregardless who make it, who adopt the standard, it has to be 100% compatible. You don't care whether your laptop made from which company, the chipset that's used in your laptop is from which manufacturer, you don't care. If you plug Ethernet RJ45 to a switch, it will be compatible. Agreed? You connect to the Wi-Fi, it should be compatible. You connect your HDMI to the TV, it will be compatible. True? And they cannot afford variation, deviation from the standard. But our industry accept that. Second, when in the IT world, when they establish a standard and manufacturer adopt it, it's not tied to a single manufacturer. Not like Lawn, not like Zigbee, not like an Ocean or anything, because they want multiple manufacturers to manufacture the components. Why? Yes, it drives the price down. It drives the adoption up. More and more people adopt it. When you have a single vendor, it locks the price down. It's controlled by a single company. That is no more called an open standard. That is a proprietary standard. Okay? So in the IT world, when we start doing the wireless, it took us many years to decide, should we design a wireless controller? And Mike has banging at my door every month. They say, when are we doing a wireless device? Everybody got this Zigbee, everybody got this Nokia, all these wireless device, everybody want a wireless. But I've been resisting it. Now, don't ask me why he still keep me around. I know he's trying to get rid of me most of the time. Because one of the reasons he's trying to get rid of me, because when we go for dinner, he say his wife keeps disappearing faster than he drink. So, about 4 years ago, we started looking and said, it's time to do wireless, but we could adopt IT standard. And what is the IT standard for wireless today? Wi-Fi. Why? Why Wi-Fi? True, it's cost, but all these are what? The effect, not the cost.
Global sharing frequency range. That's
One, so does Zigbee, so does an Ocean, 2.4 gig is open band globally. But the fact here is this, Wi-Fi is a standard without deviation. Every manufacturer follow that standard. Once it's deviated, nobody use it. Think of it today. If you could, at your home, you buy a Wi-Fi router, plug it in, set up, and out of 3 handphones, you, your wife, and your kid, 2 of the handphones cannot connect to the router and 1 can. What do you do? Throw away the other 2 handphones, or you throw away the router? Throw away the router. And will you buy from that manufacturer again? No. In our industry, when you buy 2 backnet controllers and connect together and they don't talk, what do you do? No?
Keep buying them.
You keep buying from one, put all the order under one manufacturer and give him more orders, since it's not compatible with the rest. Is that the reverse of what the IT world is doing? What is natural? If someone creates something that is not compatible, do not comply to the standard, you give him more order. Does that make sense to you? Yes, it does, because that's what we've been doing all the time. True? We tend to put all the order under one manufacturer, hoping that everything is compatible. Instead of giving the company that sell product that's very open, comply fully with the standard, we give the order the one that is making proprietary products. So we adopted Wi-Fi for a few reasons. One, as you say, is pervasive. Every building, everywhere, everybody is using it. Correct? Second, is Wi-Fi secure? Why? True? You do your bank. I have people say, but wireless is not secure. Wi-Fi is not secure. Now, he's sending a temperature and set point from a wireless sensor to his controller, and he worries his data got hacked. But he's using Wi-Fi to send $1,000 bank transfer. Does it make sense? No. Do you send an email, an invoice, or PO over Wi-Fi? You do that, right? And you're not afraid of security, but you're afraid that someone will hack the temperature reading in the building. Sounds strange, right? Why is it secure? Because he has built-in encryption over the air. And is that encryption strong? Not in the early days, but they constantly evolve it, build stronger encryption. So from the early day WEP that got hacked within less than 2 years, they replaced with WPA. Then again it got hacked in PA2, now WPA3. They constantly make it stronger, evolve the standard, get better. And the turnaround time is very fast. Anyone remember about 2 years ago, there was a hack in WPA standard. They found a security loophole. Somewhere around late November, December in 2017. Crack. The attack is called crack. How fast was the IT industry respond to that attack? Most of the Wi-Fi router manufacturers got a patch of new firmware within 1 to 2 weeks' time. True? Have you seen this kind of response time in our industry? No. Correct. We can't even get our software to work on the latest window in the next month when it launch. We have to wait 6 to 12 months. True? When Windows 10 came about, how many of you have to wait 6 to 10 months for your tool to be supporting Windows 10? The thing here is the IT industry view few things. Standards and security as the highest point. Okay? So, when we choose Wi-Fi, it's because this. The last item is we're not locked down from a single vendor. That means we are not restricted by a manufacturer. And if the manufacturer wants to increase the price by 30%, we have no other choice. But choosing a proper standard like Wi-Fi, you have choice. Why? easily 20 different manufacturers, and we can choose that. So our FW series came about that. But one of the things about FW series, anyone will you use the FW series, by the way? What do you think? Too cheap. Now, by the way, if you find that it's too cheap, we still accept donation. Okay? Now, the fact is that why is some people think that FW is very affordable? I don't use the word cheap. It's a bad word for marketing. Okay, it's very affordable. Why? Our industry has this habit of making wireless expensive. Why is that so? It's very simple. I take a controller, it costs X dollar. Let's make this controller wireless. What happened? We take a wireless chip, slap on it. Okay, more component, cost more. Let's double the price. True. But why FW is one of our lowest dollar per point family? Because instead of taking the same design approach as everybody else, what we do is that, by the way, how many know how much a Wi-Fi router averagely costs? A simple Wi-Fi router costs?
$50.
10 bucks? Okay, I'll order 50 from you. Around $20 to $50, depending on the size and the features. Okay. Now, people take a controller, slap wireless chip to it to make it wireless. FW series was designed with a reverse approach. We look at a Wi-Fi router and we slap I/O to it. So we're not increasing more component, right? We're actually reusing the same processor for the Wi-Fi and together with the controller. That's how we can make a product more affordable. By not a me too. Don't follow the usual. True? Let's look at things from a different angle, different perspective. And tomorrow you'll learn another thing about us, my team. Do you know that I hired lazy bastard? Some of you may have heard this phrase. Any one of you attended my class before? Yeah, you heard this before? I hire lazy bastard. You know why? You need to hire the people with the right motivation. You think that's a joke. Reality is this. If I hire the laziest programmer, he's going to write 3 lines that does the work instead of 20 lines. He will make sure his 3 lines of code just need to be tested once instead of 10 times. True, because his motivation is do less and get it done once. So if you are highly motivated, very productive guy, you're hiring the wrong people. Okay. So, FW. So, with that in mind, we end up saying that we have done the biggest controller, we have done wireless controller. 3 years ago, we gave the team a challenge. How small can you do? What is the smallest controller you have seen outside? Not within ECIO, but outside ECIO. It's the smallest controller. Anyone? What kind of size? Just name. Which is smallest? This size?
Yes, about that size, the smallest.
Smallest. We want to do a controller of this size. Now, this is one of the new products that we're going to launch this year, the FT. Some of you may already heard of it. Some of you, part of our beta program, has played with it. For those who do not know, FT, T stands for tiny. All our product has this funny name. Anyone know what does our earliest product FG stand for?
Friggin' great.
Second, W, FW, you know what it stands for, correct? Wireless. FS,
Superpower.
thank you, that was a new one. We call it server class Y because it has a spec equivalent to a server machine 10 years ago. Okay, so T is for tiny. Now, FT was a challenge because why? Every time I bring something big home, wife complain, no place to store. So I have to build things that are so small that she don't notice it. So how small can we get and what can we squeeze inside? So last year we sent a bunch of these, about almost 300 units globally, free of charge to our partners to play around and give us feedback. What do? In here we got 2 inputs, 2 outputs. We put live donor programming like the FW, FS, 30P, wireless, magnet IP over Wi-Fi. And we pass around, and we start getting feedback. And what the most common feedback people say is there a UI, user interface? So with that, we went back to the drawing board and redesigned this. So today, what do we have in here? We have everything that we have originally, but we added a web server. We added graphical dashboard, the same graphical engine as the FW. We added backnet IP over Wi-Fi, which is there, but we expanded the point count. We added peer-to-peer communication, all inside this tiny box. So it has almost the equivalent capability as the FW. And we squeeze inside that tiny small box. Why? Because we do not want a me-too product. We want something smaller, something unique. What do the people use it for? One of the examples that a customer told me he's designing for, guess what? Toilet counting, toilet traffic counting. He do it on the hotel mall. 2 inputs, great. 2 light sensors at the entrance of the toilet. And based on how many people go in and out of the toilet, they send cleaners to there. In a mall, you could have 10, 20 toilets. Today is regularly, so they need so much staff. But able to clean on demand is more effective, lower the manpower. Every toilet has power, agree. You got a hair dryer, all these things. But they don't have connectivity. But every mall has Wi-Fi. So able to have this, get power, count the traffic, use Wi-Fi to send the data back. Simple as that.
So,
Okay?
so Len, can we try and
Wrap it up.
wrap it up and give people a chance to ask you a couple of questions?
Okay, a quick run through. So this year we're going to launch a few new products that you're going to see on the booth outside. One of the direction we took this year was not come up any new product line, but to expand our existing line. So a few key products features that we're expanding is on the FW, we're expanding on the network security. We're supporting things like WPA Enterprise. We're going to support L2.1X. Okay? We added Modbus RTU because there's a lot of feedback that people want to talk to power meter. Okay? So although you have only one COM port, you choose between MSTP or Modbus RTU. Okay? IT security, construction. Second, on the FS32, we again expanded focusing on security. So we added VPN client and server based on OpenVPN. We support L2.1X, IPv6, MQTT. Okay? New products. FW28. We have the FW8, FW14 over the last 20 months in the market. Today, by July, we'll have, in fact, today we start having beta program to give up to beta partners for the FW28 to test. It's an expanded I/O. Same feature set as the 14 and 8, but more I/O. 16 UI, 8 DO, 4 AO. The rest of key feature like RS Wi-Fi that support Modbus or MSTP is still there. Backnet IP over Wi-Fi is still there. 2 Ethernet port is still there. So any of you who have interest can go out there to see one of the controller. The form factor size is the same as the FG32. Why? Because although FG32 has 8 AO, we took out 4 AO plus 1 COM port to give space to the antenna. Okay. FS20. We came out FS32 20 months ago, and a lot of customers moved from the FG32 Plus to the FS32 because we make it backward compatible. So last year we get feedback people want a 20-point controller. Where is our migration path from the FG20 Plus to FS20? Where the hell is that? So today we are announcing that we have that. There are samples out there for you to take a look. It has the same form factor. It's 100% backward compatible with a FG20 Plus. I/O mix, physical dimension, even software-wise. FT, I just mentioned the FT being tiny. So FT04, in fact, this is what we call a V2, because V1 is we never officially sell, we only release for people to give us feedback. We did that for one simple reason, because there's no product of this size and capability in the market. So we do not know how people is going to respond. So instead of marketing, brochures, everything, we use the money to make 300 units and give away to play and give us feedback. And we get a lot of feedback, good stuff. So what you're going to see today out there are version 2. No different size, everything is the same. Also, FD20DI. This is a dumb, by the way, D stands for dumb. Non-programmable backnet MSTP is an I/O expander to our FG, FS, FW family. Because people keep asking us, if I want more I/O, is there I/O expansion? Yes, you can use the MSTP trunk to connect I/Os like the FD or the existing FC20 to expand the I/O points. Now, there are some spec asked for, do we support PoE? Anyone know what is PoE? Power over Ethernet. Is it a lot of requests today? Slowly climbing up. It's a 50-50 mix. Some people say yes, myself. Some people say no. So rather than putting PoE inside the controller, and if you don't use, you still pay for it, we create an adapter. This adapter has 2 Ethernet ports. One is for PoE in, the other is Ethernet out. And then we give you a 24-volt output to the controller. So this adapter is compatible to all our product line. By the way, don't expect the PoE to drive your load. It can power the controller, but it can't drive your motor or your heating coil, because PoE come in different standard with different power rating, from as low as 15 watts to as high as, I think, 90 over watts. Now, that's the time given to me. I'm supposed to give you time to ask questions. Any question?
But unfortunately, you haven't given them time to ask you questions.
Great.
Good skills, I think. Guys, Lim's around obviously for today and tomorrow, and I know you all want a bit of time with him, so I would suggest that, again, Lim's going to do some sessions tomorrow. He's going to talk about MQTT, and look at the next wave of protocols that are really going to hit us all hard between the eyes. So, I'm sorry to do this, Lim. I'm going to have to kick you off stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lim. Whilst our next speaker is getting mic'd up, I joined the company about a year ago, and fairly recently I started travelling up to the Nordic lands. I originated in the IT industry similar to Lim, was 25 years in the IT industry. I know I don't look that old, but yes, I am. Thank you. And this chap who's coming up next actually took me around to see a few people, and from my old IT experiences, I always found that the Nordic lands were the most accepting of technology, most accepting of change, and actually have historically driven the IT industry back in the 80s and 90s, and certainly the telecoms industry included. So some of the work we're doing up there is very unique, it's very different. It certainly is not around legacy, it's certainly around the future. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing along with Tommy up in the Nordics. And so Tommy is going to hopefully tell you around how the Nordics are going to utilise data in a totally different way. Over to Tommy.
Thank you.
How about the first use of technology?
Okay. I will just start. This is what you're going to see now is a video that a foundation in Norway called PropTech Innovation made. What's good about this is that it's driven by the people that own the building. This is what they want to have. But I think it's good to show this video because it also shows what demand they have for us up there. We can just jump the video, that's fine. Yeah. So the foundation is called PropTech Innovation. Does anybody have heard the name PropTech before? Yeah, a few. So PropTech is property technology. So it's basically the same as IoT and everything, but it's a name for technology to the PropTech, to the properties. So this is a big focus at the moment. And if we look at Google in the Nordic, you see that it's a big issue. And this is driven by the people that own the buildings. So what is PropTech and why is PropTech so popular? So PropTech is all of the new technology that is coming into the business, like sensors, like smart office, and so on. And what's unique is that they come outside of the business, but they want to get inside of the business. And it's driven by openness and sharing of information. This is the screen that is always on PropTech meetings, and you probably have heard about it before. I'm not going to go into this, but this is the focus that we need to have the data to be able to do all of this. So in February, I started my own company as a smart building advisor. So I come from the BMS industry. I was engineering, I was selling, I was projecting, I was doing everything, I was building up departments. And after 12 years of doing that, I wanted to do something else. So I thought to myself, I had to be the customer. I have to understand why have I done this all of these years. So I joined a big company in Norway, a real estate company, and I was the owner. I was representing the owner. So suddenly I understand why did we make the BMS system this way. Well, I made it for myself. I didn't make it for the people that was actually using it. So I learned a lot after that experience, and I also saw a gap in the market because we have so much new technology that we are not using. And there was this big gap between this established and new technology. So I decided I have to do this, I have to help with the change and be an advisor for this. And why do we have to do something? Is it just for the fun of it, or is it because we have to do something? I believe that we have to do something. We have challenges, and the technology is going to help us solve these challenges. The challenges, as we see it in Nordic, is that the building that we have today is representing 80% of the building that we're going to be there in 2050. And that's a big problem, or a big challenge. And if you see that we have only 20% of the building has a BMS system. So 80% of the building are really, really stupid. There is no BMS system in there because we didn't enable the scalability. So because the starting price for a BMS system is too high in the Nordic, because we always deliver the best system. We don't start on the bottom. And of course, building accounts for 36 or 40% of the energy and 1/3 of the CO2 footprints. So that's also a global issue, a global challenge that we have. So when I started this company, I was trying to disrupt something. So I needed to put my money where my mouth was. So I moved into this building. It's 4,200 square meters and it's almost empty. 4% of the building is rented out. And for me, this building represents 80% of the buildings. This is the size that it doesn't get controlled because of the size of it. And it uses a lot of energy. It's built in 1980, and we can't tear buildings down anymore because globally that's not accepted. So I moved into this building, and it's going to be a living lab. The first step is that we are just put in all of the prop tech into it. We are put into sensors, the wireless, the air quality sensors, measuring how the building is controlled, trying to find out which wells has been closed for the last years, and also we are trying to get the established system into the cloud. So the goal is also to put all of the things that we have there, because I don't believe in just putting in new tech. I believe in getting what we have there first, and then take on the new tech as well. So this is what we're doing at the moment, and we actually now we are using it as a really, really small building, where it's driven by the people inside of the building and not the schedules. And of course, we're also playing with this because we have to learn, we have to live in and see how the building can start to talk to us. The data has to find us somewhere. And this is at this moment it's just for fun, but it's also enabled us to think beyond. And with that statement, this is maybe the boldest statement I have, but I think that when we have to share the data, when we have to share the information with not just ourselves, not just the BMS business, but all of the other business, then we can't use BACnet anymore. Because we understand BACnet, but nobody else outside of the BMS business understands BACnet. I will talk more about this, but this is my bold statement. And the other thing that is driven by PropTech is that we also change the way we work. If you look back, the leases on the buildings, the leases on the building in Norway was 7 or 11 years. So when you moved in, you were moving in for 7, 11 years, and maybe you also have an optional for 5 new years. So you were basically living there the whole life cycle time of the building. And that has massively changed. First of all, the leases are 3 to 5 years. So you're probably going to have a lot of tenants moving in and moving out in that time of year. So it needs to be flexible. And by flexible, it needs to be wireless. That's the demand. So it's not just a driven that we need to do something cooler or use more tech. It's also driven by that we change how we work, we change how we use the buildings, and we need to do it smarter. And if we look at the new leases in Nordic, 25% over the last new quarter was co-working. People moving in and out very rapidly. We talked about data today, and we talked about the importance that we need to have data to do machine learning, but also the importance of why we need to analyze data. And I think that if you look at the well standard that is driven by the tenants, we talk a lot about the air quality that we have in the building. So we need to analyze better, and I think that the new tech will enable us to analyze in a new way, so we can actually optimize the building better. So when we do projects like this living lab, the first step is always to analyze. Analyze how we use the building, how the climate is, and what we actually need to do. Because we need to do a change, we need to know why we are doing it and why we need to do it. This is the process that we are doing, and we are trying to use the new technology to give us better facts before we take decisions. because we also take decisions based on gut feelings or what we have always done. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to use technology to give us better insight before we take the big decisions. Because the buildings are already there. We can do something, we can wait, we can analyze, we can do this as a process in multiple steps. And this one has a small letter there and saying, can we trust wireless? Can we trust that the sensors will connect to us, that the data, that the controllers talk wireless? And I think Lim ruined my statement there because he said it as well. It's a temperature sensor, and we are having our computer on Wi-Fi every day. I don't even have a plug in my computer, and I'm really reliable that my computer is working. So can we take the chance to make the temperature sensor or the boiler room wireless? I think yes, but I think also we need to have a good strategy when we do our controlling. That we have a controlling that is like, if a disaster happens, if something happens, then it goes back to our default state. And I think also that's something that we need to take with us, because the DMS business has always been about to normally close, normally open, go back to the default state. And we already know this. So we just have to implement and remember the importance to always have the nuclear edition. If something happens, if the light is wireless, if it doesn't connect, stay on. If the HVAC unit doesn't connect to the sensors, go back to just controlling the exhaust temperature, for instance. So, and this is just not something that we believe in the foundation or what we think is good, but we also see the new players in Nordics, like Atia. Atia is the biggest IT company in Norway. I think it's the second biggest in Nordic. So they are building some smart buildings at the moment. This one is from Stavanger. It's been there for 1 year, 1.5 I think. And they are building a new office in Oslo as well. So this is IT people coming in and telling us, we want to build the world's smartest building. And that's a saying that everybody's been saying, but that was the plan. So they went down to Holland, to the edge, got some inspiration, and then they wanted to do it better. I think that's a good way of doing it, because you don't want to do the same, you want always to do it better. So they are changing the way we work, because they are saying, the first thing they said, every system that we deliver here should be open API. That's the number one rule. So what happened was that they had to change all of the vendors. So they went to meetings and new vendors come in, and the rule was it has to be open API. I don't care about the feed level, if it's Modbus, BACnet, or whatever, but it has to be open API. The data should be shared. The data will not go through the topology that we know today with integration. The data should be available for anybody who wants to have it. So the boiler room, the ventilation system, the security system, everything is open API, so everybody in the system can ask different vendors for the temperature. The screens can ask about the room controller's temperature, and it can talk to the weather station, and it can talk to the booking system, so it knows that this room is not, it's not going to be people here today, so you can use the sun to warm it up. So they are trying to change how we are doing, and one of the things is also that they are using PoE on all lighting. So there's no 230 volts in your roofs, it's only Ethernet cables. And with that, they're also adapted to get more data, because we now have all of the data from every lamp. If something goes wrong, if we need to change something, the temperature, the CO2, and so on. So they're also changing the way that we defaultly are doing the room controllers. So instead of putting in more sensors into the room, we can reuse what the lamps are giving us. So they're also changing the way we are doing, and they are disrupting the electrical people. So I will not go into poor, but it's like Jim said, you have to have control over your network, and you have to have control of the power of the network. So you have to have the biggest Cisco switches with 96 watts. That's another discussion. But it has to be a good plan for it. it's also a big thing in Norway now with the new standard. So it's been developed a new standard. It's called Smart by Powerhouse. And what's amusing about this is that it was not the consultants that made it. It was big business, big building owners like Encal that forced this on. So we hear about smart buildings, but what is it? And what level is it? And what does it demand? And I want to point out some nice features from this one, because this is what the market is demanding. So first of all, this is Norwegian, so I don't expect you guys to understand it under stuff. But so first of all, it talks about that we have more people interested in the building. We don't have just the owner. We have the owner, we have the government, we have the tenants, and we have the users. So we have to think about more people in the building. Also, if you want to go, it's go from level 0 to level 4. If you want to go above 2, then it has to be open API. Nothing else will be accepted. And it also says, when you go beyond level 2 on IT, it says you have to fix all of the security error you have on the old protocols like BACnet, because there is no security there. And this is a specification that is not public, so nobody owns it. It's just given away because they want to share it and they want to make it better and better. So it's not just driven by the technical people, but it's also driven by the building owners. This is what they demand. How's my time? Thank you. So the other thing is that if we do this, if we enable the API, then we also enable the third party. I think we're going to hear more about this tomorrow as well. But the third party here is also what can really make the power here. If we enable to share the data, then I think we can do amazing things. And some of that in the PropTech is the smart office that we are doing. So the tenants are demanding to have what is smarter building for them. It has to be smarter and easier for them. So they are saying that we need smart office. If the building is smart, I want to know it, I want to feel it. So this is an example. We have a few buildings in Norway now that I'm a consultant on, and we are doing like positioning, parking. People can. It's like a BMS system for the tenant. So you can actually do everything. When you're a tenant and you have the right login, then you can do everything. You can book your parking place. You can book the meeting room. You can order lunch, and you have all of the sensors data in there, like a BMS system, but it's made for the tenant, so you can actually, if you're not technical, you can actually understand it. The problem that we are facing with this is, of course, the sharing of the data. What does it mean that we can see the temperature if we cannot adjust it? And this is a big challenge. So the big problem at the moment is the BMS, because we can't talk to Schneider that is there. They have to enable it, and it costs money, and all of that. So we are still working on that. But the bad thing about this is that this is something that the building owner wants and the user wants. And at this moment, our industry is stopping this to evolve. So we are not getting more popular by this either. But I think we will solve this. I think that people that really want to share the data will be the winners, because then we enable all of the new features that is wanted in the market. And if you really think about it, how do we control our buildings today? Often in Nordics, we have schedule on a lot of things. So by using the new data, we also can change the way we live, because why should the FM guys adjust the ventilation instead of the people that are actually there? It should be so smart, so automatic, that it would run for itself. Because automatic from Latin means that something happens without a human hand. I think we need to go back to that. Make it so that the FM guys can't really mess up. They can't really change what should not be changed. and we need to analyze how we are using the building, and it needs to be automatic after that. So this is some of the things that we talk about in the Nordics today, and I think I also managed to hold my time, so thank you so much for your attention, and
You're ahead of time, Tommy. Do you want to go back around again?
back up.
Any questions from the audience? Oh dear. I've got a question for you, Tommy.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the four-letter acronym earlier. Could you tell me where you believe MQTT sits within all of this as a strategy?
I think that MQTT will enable this, because MQTT will, it's like when you're on LinkedIn. If you want to follow somebody talking about something, you follow him. And for me, MQTT is the same. If I want to know all the data from a chiller, then I just subscribe to him, and I can use his data to optimize my system. So I think the MQTT is one of the winners, and I also think that MQTT will be one of the winners of getting the data from building to building with a low cost and low bandage, because that's what it was really made for.
I've seen on your LinkedIn profile a number of times you talking with a number of innovative sensor companies up in the region. You and I often have a debate around that, because in terms of the technology and the diversity and the ability to quickly apply that technology, nasty question is, where do you sit on software as a service models and licensing models? Because it seems that even though some of the new prop tech businesses are coming up with great technology, they're actually also looking at commercial models that don't necessarily fit the future of the technology.
And I think that's a challenge, because as you're saying, the new prop tech company, the new sensor company, are trying to do the sensor as a service. So it's a monthly fee with all inclusive, and I think that it needs to be a communication with this, and also the people that own the building has to see what kind of solution do they want. I think that kind of model, I think that works good for the FM business, and the FM businesses in Nordic is actually the guys that are buying all of this equipment and making the building smart with insight. But to adapt it to our world, to the BMS world, I think that it needs to be sorted out, because it's two different worlds at the moment, because the PropTech company is coming directly from the IT, so it's like our Windows server, where you pay per month, or Microsoft 365 where you pay per month. So I think that's one of the challenges.
Mr. Reed.
Hi Tommy. You've got RIP back now. You said you were going to talk more about it, but you didn't. I'm keen to hear more about what you think about that and what's replacing it, and if you think MQTT is going to be down in the controllers as well as JavaScript in fact down in the controllers.
I think that to say Buckner, that's a bold statement, and it's not going to be for today, but it's something that I want to work with and want to talk about, because if you look at Buckner today, like Lim was saying, you don't know if it's going to talk to each other. You can make proprietary objects, and also if we're talking about Internet of Things, with all of the things on the internet, and you want to put backnet on routers, and you have to adapt to DBMD with a lot of repeaters and a lot of noise, then it's not the way. I believe in MQTT as of this moment, but I'm still trying to learn what other companies also are doing. I did some innovation project in Norway, converting all buildings to MQTT, and we didn't use any engineer time. It was 2% of the original cost. So today I will answer MQTT.
Tom.
It might even have the same answer, but you talked about the need to having open APIs. I know.
Yeah.
I know a little bit, but not much. Most APIs I've come across are bespoke, what is the open standard that you use to make sure that different people's APIs can talk to each other?
For API, there is probably persons better than me on it, but what I'm demanding when I'm in a project, we're saying that it should be a REST API, that is, everything on there should be completely open, so all of the data has to be transparent. Because that was one of the early mistakes we did. We were just saying open API. And then when we got the data, we got some of it, and they said, oh, you didn't say what you want to have. So what we are saying today is that it needs to be transparent. So every event that is happening from top level to down, every change should be open. And also all of the static data. So everything has to be transparent on the other side. But that's also one of the challenges, because we haven't done so much with the open APIs. So I also think we have a learning curve there. And I also think that we need to invite new players with the IT people to help us. And if you look at the ATIA project, I think 10 years ago, I think about 5 IPs on a BMS program, a BMS project, because everything was on the telephone wires. But I think we got 5,000 IPs there. So it needs some new expertise to do all of the VLANs, and I also think they need to help us with the open APIs and how it should work.
How do you expect to cope with the expanding of IP addresses? I mean, I've been to an event recently where there were so many people in the room that the Wi-Fi just couldn't handle it. With all these extra devices that everybody's talking about putting on, how is that going to be taken?
What we are doing today is that we are one Wi-Fi for the whole building. So before, all of the tenants got to set up their own Wi-Fi in their own way. And if we have the meeting rooms, then you have 10 AP in the meetings room. So what we are doing is that we are one IT company is in charge of all of the IT structure. And by doing it by that, and by doing it correctly, then we don't have the problem. And we also get all of the data of all of the people there, because we also use the map that is generated for heat mapping. So we see all of the mobile phone with the 3 meters. So we also get more insight by doing it that way. But that's one of the challenges in the old buildings, for sure.
One of the projects Tommy's talking about, a company called Cisco have turned up, contemplating that they're once again going to come into the built environment. And they've got a lovely backnet to MQTT conversion device, which costs $4,500. So, and it's never been actually put into the project yet, and never worked. So, watch that space, because again, the IT companies have always thought that this is a space for them, and you know they are going to come in. And once we get to an MQTT platform, prevalence and the IT companies is going to be big. The other thing that Tom and I often talk about is best of breed. The idea that you have that flexibility and ability to buy what you want, put it in, which is, you know, feeding on from what Lim said before. We don't really care what Wi-Fi is up above us, and we're connecting to it with our phone, our laptop, our iPad, and everything else. And it doesn't care, it doesn't matter. The same is going to come into the sensor industry and everything else, because technology companies will develop something that's unique and good, and it shouldn't be that can't fit onto a BMS system in an open and acceptable manner. Thank you, Tommy. Thanks very much.